Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today we're checking out a projector sent out to me by Soomfon. So this is a 1080p 500 lumens Netflix certified projector, and it is running Well TV. So as you can see from the box, it does have some geometric correction built in, and it has its own operating system. So in theory, you could use this as a standalone device. In terms of what you get in the package, so everything that you need to initially get you set up, the actual power cable, and depending on where you order this from, it will come from Amazon, so it will be suitable for your region. It also comes with a HDMI cable in the box, as well as a Bluetooth remote. Now, I wasn't actually able to get this working via Bluetooth, even though it does tell you how to set it up. But in theory, this is also a Bluetooth remote. If you wanted to, you could just pair any external Bluetooth remote with the actual projector as well. It comes with a quick start guide, as well as some wall plugs for some reason on my model. So I'm not sure if these are meant to be included or not, and a comprehensive user manual as well. Taking a look at the actual projector itself, you can see it does have a motorized lens, so it does actually move in and out, and it does have a little bit of protection on the front as well as a little sensor. There is a power button to the right hand side as you're looking at it, and on the back it does also have another sensor for the infrared signal from the remote. On the left hand side, as you're looking at the projector, is where you have all your ports. So you have two USB ports, two HDMI, a Ethernet, an AV port, and a headphone jack on there as well. And then I believe there's also another little sensor there as well. The stand that comes attached to this is detachable, so you can actually have it with the stand or remove that completely. And on the bottom of the actual projector, there is also a little swivel wheel that you can actually extend out if you did want to use it without the stand and just have it raised up, as you can see in the image just here. The removable stand is both a pro and con, which I will get into later in the video when I actually go through some of the demos of the actual projector. Initial impressions of the build quality is it feels quite sturdy, and it is supposed to be a sealed unit for the actual lens. So in theory, you shouldn't get the same issue with this as you do with a lot of other ones, where you end up with dust building up in the lens itself. Okay, so here we have the projector set up on my rear seats for my home cinema. This is the same setup that I use for testing all of the various different projectors that get sent out to me. So my rear bench has its own power supply, and this works as a perfect base for me to project onto my ultra short throw screen. Now, bear in mind that because this is an ultra short throw screen, it will be losing some brightness as a result. So ideally, what I would want to be doing is projecting up as it is from my actual ultra short throw projector. But with that said, I can do the brightness test separately. In this one, basically what I'm testing out is the features in terms of how the geometric correction and everything works. So initially when I put it on the bench, usually what I tend to find is that I need to actually move projectors as far back as I can in order to fill the whole screen, or at least get it in such a way where the geo correction can actually work. Now with this one, because of the stand that's come with it, there is one slight downside, which is when you've got it connected via these, it seems to still have a little twist sideways. So you do have to try and make sure that it's actually straight in the mount itself. But because it is so high, and because it is quite stiff as well once you actually rotate it, it does mean that you basically, as you can see, I've been able to move it all the way forward, and that's still filling the whole screen. The second thing to note is that when I did actually set it up initially, obviously I do have to kind of fold these seats down, so the tops of these do obstruct that. So this is the same for every projector I've tested in here. I always have to put these seats down a little just to make sure that it's filling the whole screen. The other thing to note is that I think it took around 3 attempts for me to use the geo correction button. So if you just hit that button, there is the geometric correction, and after about the 3rd attempt, it did actually detect the screen relatively well. So I'll just show you again. So if I just hit that, what tends to happen is it will do this. It does the checkerboard, it figures out the focus, it checks to see if it can detect a screen, and then it does its best to actually fill in. And as you can see, at that time it didn't actually work. So for some reason it's not accurate every single time. And another little sort of downside of the mount that I have also noticed, which is why it may have actually thrown this off, is that the mount itself, and if I just jump up and down, you can see the screen does actually move. Now this floor is relatively stable. Because of the design of this, there is a lot of wobble in this. So wherever you put it, so as you can see, because I've just shaken it, it's detected movement and it's basically tried to refocus. I'm sure if I did it enough times, it would be able to actually correct that screen there, and it would actually fill it in better. But if need be, you can obviously always go in and do it manually if you need to, but we'll leave it as is for now. But essentially what it's doing is it's cropping in on the oversampled size. So whenever you're doing this, you're always losing pixels. So obviously, ideally, wherever you set this up, if you're doing a more permanent setup, then you want this closer. And I would also recommend that this mount is only used as a sort of temporary measure rather than the sort of go-to in this kind of setup if you're projecting onto a screen. The other thing to note is obviously right now I have half the curtains closed. So I'll just show you for reference purposes what it actually looks like. So it does wash out quite a bit, and even right now, if you can see any details, you have to remember that this is the brightest it will get. So what I found with these settings was if you go in and you adjust anything above say 52, 53, it starts blowing out highlights straight away. So you can make this projector darker, but I wouldn't really recommend making the picture any brighter in any of the settings. Okay, so now I have closed all the curtains, so now you can see what it looks like. Now I'll have to wait and see how this actually looks on the MacBook once I'm actually editing it, but to the naked eye, it's not very bright at all, but that is to be expected because of the distance I'm projecting this. So obviously it's a lot further back that compared to my normal ultra short throw projector. I believe they quoted around about 500 lumens for this. My Hisense is 3000, and it's also projecting onto a ultra short throw screen, so a ambient light rejecting screen. So it will be rejecting some of the brightness that's actually coming towards it. The other thing I have noticed is that the focus is slightly out at the moment, so you can actually just adjust the focus on the remote as well. And what I find is if you've got this straight, then you will get some decent uniformity, but if you've got it off to an angle and you're using the geocorrection, then your focus uniformity will be massively off from one side to the other. But that, as I said, is the same for every one of these sort of budget projectors where you're relying on geocorrection rather than the actual alignment directly. And obviously right now we're losing pixels as well, and I think this is the best time for me to illustrate just how many pixels we're losing and how much brightness we're losing. So that is how far it's actually projecting, and obviously what it crops down to afterwards. So as you can see there, it's actually done, well, it looks like it's done a decent job, but it's still making the picture a little bit smaller. And I do find that the focus is generally 1 or 2 out, and once again I think that is purely down to the actual base on the actual unit itself, where it's so flimsy that it does shake quite a bit. Okay, so in terms of settings, there's not a lot that you can actually adjust. So you do have the lens section. So on the projection type, you can go front, rear, ceiling front or ceiling rear. Under autofocus, you can either have all of these set to auto, or you can disable them in order to try and get some manual correction. So if you disable auto keystone, then you have the force corner correction that you can do. You can do obstacle recognition, which basically cuts out the corners if there's anything seen, and it just makes it smaller, which possibly could be why the corners weren't matching up. And then you have screen recognition, which is what I turned on in order to kind of fill the corners of the actual screen itself. On the sound, you have a few profiles that you can choose through. Realistically, I couldn't really tell much difference between all of them. On picture profile, so you do have a few picture profiles that you can choose from. The only one that you can adjust is user, and the difference between standard and vivid and all of these, usually where it's quite big, it wasn't actually that big, as I mentioned earlier. So anything above say 50 and you are starting to blow out highlights. On this one, I left brightness at 50 and I adjusted the contrast, and all the content I was watching was pretty unwatchable really for any bright scenes. You do have color temperature control just there as well. Realistically, you can make this darker, but I wouldn't really make it any brighter. You'd also have eye protection mode, which I'm guessing is using the sensors on the front of the device in order to dim the LED. It's not going to be a laser, it will be an LED lamp if somebody does walk across the front of it. You have obviously your wireless connections and your Bluetooth connectivity. Now the actual remote that comes with it apparently is supposed to be Bluetooth, but I couldn't actually get it to connect. But the good thing is, obviously, because it does recognize Bluetooth, you should be able to connect any universal remote to this without any issue. It does have the option for system updates, although it didn't have one waiting for me when I did actually turn it on. And then you have a few other settings for voice control, as well as some app permission settings as well. And then you have the basic device preferences that you can go in and adjust as well. Now, the manufacturers did make a very big deal about this being a sealed unit. So from people people that have bought budget projectors, a lot of them complain that they do end up with a lot of dust inside the lens, and over time that dims the image. With this one being a sealed unit, they made a very big deal about it being a sealed unit. In theory, that should be a lot better in terms of cleaning and maintaining it. So if you do get dust buildup and obviously heat over time, which causes the fans to kick in more, hopefully with it being a sealed unit, it should perform a little bit better. Now, in my basic testing, I've found that this is probably on par with other projectors I've tested in the same sort of price range, but the mount on this is both a pro and con. So as I mentioned, in terms of getting it set up, if you've got somewhere where it's completely separate, so a shelf or something like that, that's not related to a floating floor at all, then you're probably going to find that this is enough to actually give you a lot of flexibility. But on the flip side, if you've got it somewhere like this where it's on the same ground, then as you see, just doing that moves the actual projection, and it's quite a bit as well. I know it's not going to really show the effect to you because I'm also moving, but I move that now, and as you can see, it's actually still moving even after I've stopped. So yeah, that is one sort of downside, where these side bits aren't actually connected to anything, they're just there for show. It connects underneath, and then it uses the resistance between the two parts to actually cause it to go in the various different angles. Initial impressions is it's pretty good. We'll get some test samples. Daytime, it's going to be completely unusable with all the curtains open. So even with mine, even with my 3000 lumen projector, it's still unusable apart from anything other than really bright content. Once the curtains closed, it will give you an idea. It's not bright, I will tell you that straight away. The smaller the image you make, the more it's going to pop, and obviously ideally these are made for a white surface, not a grey surface, which is what my screen is. But on a white surface, it's going to pop a lot more. On this one, you're going to get a more even surface, but it's not going to be very bright. Okay, so this is with the Sony camera. So as you can see, curtains are all closed now, and yeah, curtains are all closed. You are still getting a tiny little bit of ambient light there. These aren't actually fully filled in, but it's decent. It's, I would say, watchable. This is darkroom viewing only. Anything with bright content, you can get away with watching it in brighter conditions. This on a white wall would look brighter, but anything with dark scenes is not going to be viewable in anything other than a light controlled room. Okay, and this is that same clip still playing with half the curtains open, so I'll just come around and give you some context in terms of how much brightness is actually coming into the room. And this is what the image looks like. Once again, on screen this looks brighter to me than it does in reality. To the naked eye, this doesn't look anywhere near as bright, and the camera is probably doing a pretty good job in terms of just sort of pulling out whatever highlights it can in order to make the image look slightly better. And finally, I know nobody's ever going to use this type of projector like this, but yeah, you can see with all the curtains open, projector still on, and yeah, it's barely visible. I can see that obviously this is a full-on match, and I can see... Okay, so here we have some samples of it in the other room on a white wall. So this is a freshly painted wall, only recently done, and the smaller the image that you project, the brighter it's going to look. So in this instance, I actually removed the stand and I attached the projector onto a tripod. The tripod wasn't really set up because the cable is quite short, so this wasn't actually that far back. On this side, I was able to get it further back, so as you can see, the image is a lot larger. The first image I would say was probably closer to maybe 40-50 inches. This one is probably closer to maybe 75 to 80 inches in terms of size. I do have double doors on the right hand side, so it does wash out this image quite a bit because as you can see, there was a lot of daylight. But as you can see here, once it switches to anything with dark content, it's very difficult to see that. Bright content like the homepage, anything with colors, you can still see it quite clearly, and if anything, it projects a little bit better on a whiter wall because that's what it's designed to basically utilize the white in order to pick up those highlights. But the downside of that is the fact that obviously you can't then get those same deep blacks from a white wall. The other thing is the auto geometric correction. It is so hit and miss that occasionally it will do a really good job, and then maybe 2 or 3 times it will just crop it all the way down, or sometimes it won't even be straight. Okay, so overall the projector itself did a pretty decent job, I would say, compared to a lot of the other projectors. There's only one other projector that I've tested which had a claimed 1400 lumens output and was probably closer to maybe 1100-1200. That one was usable in the conditions that I just shown previously. Every other projector has been on par with this or worse, so this one does actually perform reasonably well, and the stand that it comes with does a pretty decent job if you have somewhere to put it and you just want a quick temporary setup. A couple of tips is, firstly, try and get this as straight as possible. Don't project it up at an angle because you will have horrible focus uniformity between the corners and the image will just give you a headache over time. Overall, the design and the sort of construction of it is pretty decent. It feels pretty sturdy. It feels decently well built and seems like it will last. So yeah, another option for anybody out there. I will, as always, have links in the description below for anybody that wants to purchase. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and turn on notifications for any future videos. And until the next one, thanks very much for watching.